So we are going to look at the difference between primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary carbons. हमारे बच्चों का मसला ये है that we have a lot of reactions in chemistry, right? We have SN1 reactions, we have SN2, we have internal reactions, we have solvolysis, which is a type of nucleophilic reaction. Now, the problem is कि हमारे बच्चों को यही नहीं पता कि टर्शरी कार्बन क्या है, सेकेंडरी कार्बन क्या है, या टर्शरी या क्वाटरनरी में क्या फ़र्क है. Now, why is this information important? Because some reactions they favor primary carbons and some reactions actually favor tertiary or quaternary carbons over other carbons. That's the reason why we need to know the difference between all of these. Chalo, let's say I have a molecule right here. Let's look at the difference. So let's say I have a molecule right here. Let's talk about this carbon first. This carbon. Now let's imagine there's a carbon right there. अब ये कार्बन 3 और कार्बन्स के साथ attached. Carbon 1, carbon 2, carbon 3. So any carbon that is attached to 3 more carbons is going to be our tertiary carbon. Okay, so this one right here is our tertiary carbon. Now let's talk about this carbon right here. This carbon. Now as you guys can see, again, let me change the color really quickly. This carbon is attached to 2 carbons. One carbon here, and the second carbon is here. Any carbon that is attached to 2 carbons, it's going to be our secondary carbon. So this carbon right here is our secondary carbon. This carbon right here is also a secondary carbon because as you guys can see again, it's bonded and attached to 2 other carbons. One carbon right here and the other carbon being there. What about this one though? So the last carbon, ये सिर्फ एक ही कार्बन से अटैच्ड है, इस कार्बन से, और तो कोई कार्बन आपको नजर नहीं आ रहा. So any carbon that is attached to only one other carbon, that is going to be our primary carbon. There we go. So that's the whole idea. Let's do another example. So this was pretty straightforward. All you have to do is make sure that you count the number of carbon atoms that are bonded to our atoms of, or our carbon of interest. So let's look at another example right here. Let me just draw a molecule really quickly for you guys. Let's say we have this. Again, let's look at this carbon first. So this carbon, as you guys can see, it is attached to 2 more carbons. One carbon here, the other being there. ये carbon है ना, और ये carbon 2 carbons के साथ attached है. So this is going to be our secondary carbon. Now what about this carbon? This carbon is again a secondary carbon because attached to 2 other carbons. This guy right here is also a secondary carbon because it's attached to 2 other carbons. Now all the carbons that you see edges पे, like this carbon right here, this carbon right here, they're automatically going to be primary carbons. क्योंकि वो सिर्फ आगे से, ये for example ये जो carbon है, ये आगे सिर्फ एक और carbon के साथ attached है. So any carbon that is attached to one carbon is going to be our primary carbon. That's our primary carbon right there. There we go. Easy.